Okay, so at the moment we can see this front face, that's there. So we can rub that line out there, as that shoulder. Okay, this door is going to have a long shoulder and a short shoulder because there's a rebate in this style here. So we have the long shoulder there, we have the short shoulder. We know where the edge of the tenon is because the edge of the tenon is going to line up with that rebate. The tenon is in the centre third roughly of the timber, and the tenon is always on line with your depth of your rebate. So the tenon's either in the rebate or in the full section at the bottom. This particular one sits in the rebate nicely. So if the tenon sits in the rebate, then that follows that when you look at the tenon in that direction, the rebate isn't going to be the full thickness of the timber because the rebate cuts the tenon off there. Okay, so we need to set back the tenon for the depth of that rebate. So that line is actually there. That's dead straightforward. So if I take the steel rule, line it up with our rebate line, and then just do a dotted line there to signify that there's a hidden detail, and that hidden detail is this edge of that tenon. Okay, so now we've got the tenon thickness, we just need to divide it a bit of fractions. So we'll divide it into 3. So that measures roughly, it measures 59 millimeters. So we'll call it 60 millimeters. So that means your tenon is approximately 40 millimeters, your haunch is 20. So we'll divide that up now. So I'll go for 40 mil. No matter if it's slightly under, slightly over, it just needs to be roughly 2/3. Okay. So I have 40 mil there. While I'm doing that, I'm going to mark 40 mil from that line on the other side. Just because I can now take the steel rule across from this side to that side, and I know that the line of the tenon is going to be parallel. So I'm just going to draw a light construction line there and one on the other side while I'm doing the same job. Okay. So how do we split this tenon up? So it's 2/3 and 1/3 in that direction. So we've established that that's 40 mil and 20 mil roughly. What about the length of this haunch here? So you get the length of the haunch from the thickness of your tenon. So officially the statement says the depth of this haunch should be equal to 1/3 of the thickness of your material. So 1/3 of the thickness of this is actually the same as the tenon. So if that is 12 mil, we'll make that 12 mil. And in theory, when you look at that at the end, your haunch should be roughly a square. That's how you know that your proportions are okay. So we measure 40 mil, 20 mil, and on this shoulder here, from your longest shoulder, so that is your shortest shoulder, that is your longest shoulder that goes into this rebate. From that longest shoulder, you need to measure that to be the same as your tenon. So if we mark 12 millimeters on there, that is the length of that. Make sure that's square. Put a dotted line there. Okay, so that's the top joint done. So we're going to put the detail in now for this gunstock shoulder. So this here is the rebate. That's what that dual line is there. And this is a groove. So we're going to have a shoulder that goes from the bottom corner of this rebate back up to the full section of the timber there. That is detailed in the booklet on that page. That's the view from the back. So you can see there that at the back it's mitered in on both sides because there's a mould at the bottom of your door and there's no mould at the top. So they've just extended this shoulder to be a long shoulder, which allows that to be mitered. So on the face side, which is the dotted line on this drawing, we're going to go from the bottom of that rebate to where that timber, that middle rail, meets the stile. Okay, so on this side, that is from there to there. Okay, so just so that I can see that middle rail now, I'm going to rub out this vertical line. Okay, so the middle rail, what have we got? Twin tenon single haunch. We have a rebate on the top of the middle rail. It's going to form a rebate for the glass in the door. And in the bottom, we have a groove that's going to form a panel for the bottom of the door. It's a half glazed door. So because the joint is quite wide, we need to separate this tenon into roughly 3. So we have a twin tenon with a single haunch in the middle. The way to mark this out is you need to figure out where the tenons start, and it's not on these outside lines. The tenons are lined up with the inside lines. The reason for that is that the rebate actually cuts away some of the tenon because the tenon is in the rebate section. So it's in that section of timber. So if the tenon is in the section where the rebate is, the rebate will knock back that tenon by the depth of the rebate. On the other side, we have a groove, and the groove have also knocked back the tenon. So basically it's not a third of the timber, it's a third of the distance from there to there. So all we need to do is extend those lines. There we go. So that's the first stage. Okay, we'll rub this line out now. And we can see the shape of the timber. Right, so they're the extents of the tenon. So we just need to divide what's left by 3. So there we have 96 mil. So if we said 32 mil, so I'll measure 32 mil from this side, 32 mil from the other side, and the remainder should be 32. Okay, so because we used this side as the face side, we know it's square, so I can square off there and just do myself a faint construction line for both of those. Okay, so there's the thirds. Then we need to think about the haunch. Okay, and then we just need a square line across there. So if I square off this, at the top here, this rebate on this side is actually going to be a mitre. I'll draw that line in there. Dotted line. And then on the opposite side, so we'll dot that in, we'll dot that detail in. Okay, right, that's all the detail done now. I'm just going to ink that in to bring it off the page and allow you to get a better view. So the bottom rail. Okay, the bottom of the stile is square with a groove in. Okay. There's a groove in the top half of the bottom rail, and on the back edge of that is an ovalo mould. There's a long and short shoulder, but this time the long shoulder is on the bottom, not on the face side, because that moulding there is going to have to mitre into this moulding or scribe over there. So that needs to be longer to go down to that line.